Every empire believes its money is safe, and every government says its promises will last forever, and almost every time, history proves that isn't true. From Rome to France, from the Confederacy to modern Lebanon, people have lived through the same story again and again. They wake up one morning and realize their savings are losing value. Their salaries mean nothing, and their future was never as secure as they believed. Collapse is not something rare or unthinkable. Actually, it's the rule. The real question is not whether systems will fail, but what you will do when they do. Most of us look at money and assume it will last. We look at our bank accounts and our national currencies and say, this is safe. But money is not something solid, like a rock. Money is trust, and trust can disappear overnight. That's why history is both cruel and incredibly useful. Because every collapse shows us the same thing: what truly holds its value, and what can turn to dust in an instant. And if you pay close attention, you'll notice something interesting. The people who survive these disasters best are not the ones who trust the system the most. They are the ones who start doubting first. Let's think about the Byzantine Empire. Even after Western Rome fell, it managed to survive for nearly 1,000 years. At the heart of its economy was the gold solidus. It was so reliable that merchants from Europe to the Middle East and even Asia accepted it without question. For its time, it was almost like a global currency. So you'd think they learned their lesson from Rome's earlier disaster with silver coins, right? When emperors kept lowering the silver content until the coins were basically metal with a thin coating. But actually, no. Centuries later, Byzantium made the same mistake. They reduced the purity of gold and mixed in cheaper metals. At first, no one noticed. Then, trust broke. The coin that once kept trade stable became just another piece of metal, and with it, the economy lost its strength. So who survived? The people who trusted the government's promises. Number. The ones who quietly held real gold or invested in land beyond the state's reach. While everyone else watched their money melt away, they protected their wealth. And the first big lesson here is simple. Governments struggle to resist the temptation to manipulate money, and when they do, real value runs to things they cannot print. But not every collapse comes from government mistakes. Sometimes life brings its own shocks. In the 14th century, Europe was devastated by the Black Death. Nearly half the population died. Cities emptied, villages were destroyed, and trade collapsed. But here's the surprising part. When the population fell, labor became more valuable. Survivors could demand higher wages. Land and food became more abundant compared to people. For those who had some money, goods, or simply the ability to work, new opportunities appeared. Land that once seemed unreachable was suddenly cheap. The market shifted in favor of buyers, and if this sounds familiar, it should. During COVID, we saw a modern version of the same thing. Those with money could buy houses, stocks, and businesses. Those without it were just trying to survive. The truth is simple. Pandemics redistribute wealth. They always have. Crises reward the prepared, and they crush the unprepared. The banking collapse in Renaissance Florence teaches us another lesson. At the time, Florence was Europe's financial center. People believed those massive banks could never fail, but when one king stopped paying his debts, everything collapsed. Deposits vanished, trade stopped, and people learned a painful truth. Being powerful does not mean being safe. Too big to fail is a story as old as finance itself. We saw the same thing in 2008, in Lebanon and in many other countries. When institutions collapse, they don't save you. They save themselves. The same was true during the American Civil War. Both sides printed money, and the more they printed, the less that money was worth. In the South, people carried bags of cash and still couldn't buy bread. Those who survived were not the ones with paper money, but the ones with land, food, and gold. The same story repeated during the French Revolution, the Asian financial crisis, and in Lebanon. And let's be very clear, collapse is not something that only happened in the past. It is happening today. Banks can close, accounts can be frozen. A lifetime of savings can disappear overnight. So the real question is this: when everything goes wrong, what will you hold on to? History shows us there is no single solution, but there is one common pattern. Blind trust does not save anyone. Real assets, real skills, and flexibility do. Because wealth is not only what you own, it's what you can produce, what you can fix, what you can provide that people actually need. In the end, almost every crisis becomes the same thing: a transfer from the unprepared to the prepared. And here is the hardest truth: collapse can always happen. So the question is, will you be left holding promises or something that truly has value? History may not repeat itself exactly, but it always punishes those who refuse to learn from it. If this gave you a new perspective, don't forget to subscribe. History has the answers, and together we'll learn where to look.